What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Kilo Loco,
And this is Eman Harut.
and today we have another exciting episode here on the Code Passionately podcast. What are we going to be talking about today, E-Man?
Today we're going to be covering networking, one of the more underrated tools that people could use to get a job.
Yep, and another thing that you're probably going to notice if you've been watching the last couple of videos or been listening to the last couple of episodes of the podcast is that E-Man has gone all in. He's going big. He's not going home. He has an awesome new mic. I finished my audio mess ups. We're improving quality today.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully my voice sounds better with this new mic because it cost a pretty penny.
I think
So
it sounds a little
how's...
bit sexier, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, but
Man. Stop it, dude. Stop it. You're going to make me blush.
ooh,
That's why I spent all this money, man. It was for you. Uh,
oh yes.
we're getting a little bit of a bromance developing here, man. We'll see what happens by the 10th episode.
Shit. By the
So
10th
yeah,
episode, we're gonna have a show called Impractical Coders.
impractical. That's actually pretty good. I wouldn't mind though. So let's how have you been, man? Let's talk a little bit about your week, man. We always just jump right into the topic. Oh, it's your birthday, so happy
Y'all,
birthday.
thank you. Yep, turning 30. I'm getting old. Yep. But yeah, my week has been pretty good. The past couple of days I've just been offline. I'm like unplugging from social media and from work and all that other stuff. And I just been playing the video game, honestly. Like that's the thing that I like doing. I'm on the Xbox just playing with my cousins and my dad, and just been enjoying that there. But how about you?
Nice. Wait. What have you been gaming with though?
I'm
PC,
no,
Mac?
I'm on Xbox Series X, and
Oh,
I
nice.
play Call of Duty.
Oh, I'm surprised you're able to get one of those. For me, I've been at war. So you knew a few weeks back we had pest control come to deal with the roaches here. So they reappeared again. And dude, if you talked to me a couple days ago, I was like tail between my legs with my wife. I'm like, I want to leave. Let's get a motel. Let's go to our parents' house. Let's do anything. I didn't even want to stay here one more night, man. And then yesterday, I'm like, let's go to war, man. I'm gonna buy this, put the baits out. Like I'm like I'm completely offensive now. And like I got a renewed sense of like the warrior spirit. So hopefully in 3 days time, this plan is supposed to work, and I shouldn't be seeing any more roaches. And yeah, we have the German variety. They're called German roaches, and they're the worst ones to have.
Yeah, yeah, they are.
So that's been my wonderful week.
Yeah, been there, done
um,
that. But yeah, let's jump into the episode. What are we talking about this week again?
yeah. So networking. So we're gonna be just going through some tips and stuff initially, and about like what to do when you show up, what kind of events you should look into, and
Networking
then
like
towards the
API
end, we'll...
requests or what?
Oh yeah, according to our buddy Yariv, that's exactly what it means. Thing, networking. We're gonna like show people like how to like get outside of yourself, especially because a lot of people in this industry might be a little more introverted, myself included. So we're gonna be talking a little bit about that and helping people out, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm actually
Yeah.
introvert. I'm actually an introvert. I actually do not like going out to places, and whenever I do, it's just like very energy sucking on me. Like I can show that I'm an extrovert in some sense. I could like put on that hat, I guess, but it's not natural.
Dude, when quarantine started, we were a couple months in. I was cruising. I'm all chilling. I'm like, I love this, man,
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
is.
But being home all the time, like, why the hell not? And then when my friends were complaining, like, I can't take it anymore. I'm like, oh shit, is this normal? Like, should I
Yeah.
be this comfortable with this? Anyway,
I didn't have a problem at all, honestly. I still
yeah.
don't.
Seriously, man, it's my way to recharge, man. I could be home all the time if people let me. Um,
Yup.
So let's jump right into the first point right here. So the first thing we thought we'd kick it off with is just discussing ideas of places you can go and events you could kind of attend in order to network. And the first big one, I think, for most developers, especially if you live in a bigger city, is meetup.com. this is an amazing resource. You could find a meetup in your area for almost any interest, hobby, whatever. You could meet up for games, for people who grow plants or whatever. Like there's a group for everything. And if you just search iOS developers, mobile developers, web developers, you're bound to find multiple meetups for programmers in your area.
Yeah, the only thing about meetup.com is that it was like super physical. Like, so the entire thing is that you're going to go somewhere, someplace that's, facilitated, and you're going to be around other people. Since COVID has sprung up, I don't really know what that scene is like. Personally, I'm not the type of person that's going out right now a whole lot. So, it's at your discretion. Meetup is a great option. It's actually how I got my very first paid job as a developer, through their online boards. It wasn't actually through being there, but it was through their online boards. But before I got that job, there was a couple of other people, because usually business people go to find developers there too. So meetup.com, really great
That's
option.
That's an interesting tip because I didn't even know Meetup had an online board. I
It
would
was
get
like,
messages from recruiters, but
it was like each meetup group has their own, like they had like this digital post board or something like that, where you could post something up, and I was just browsing it like late, like at 2 o'clock at night, one night, and I just happened to see somebody say, hey, we need an iOS developer. And then we got into
nice.
contact, and that's how I became a developer. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I used it to meet a lot of people actually. I met Steven from Fireside Swift that way. Uh, who else? Garrick from what was his podcast? Swift Coders podcast. So a lot of the OG podcasters, I met them through meetup.com. They were all over the LA scene, and it was a great way. Excellent tool. You would have like companies coming and hosting events. It would be like, they would have like, they would spoil people too sometimes. They would have like pizza, organic drinks, all this stuff, man. And everyone would show up with their computers and just, work on their projects, mingle, talk. And another thing I guess I'll touch on now, when I was studying for a business degree in college, the meetup, the networking scene was all like casual, like suit and tie, shake people's hand them a business card, that whole stuff. With programming, it's so much more laid back and casual. So when we're talking about networking here, we're talking about much more laid back, low stress situations. Uh, I feel like most people would fit in naturally with these kinds of events.
Yeah, even a follow up on a tangent of that, like my interviews have been like super casual. It's like wear a t-shirt, wear some jeans, don't come in a suit. They said that, like really casual
Oh,
dress.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. You don't want to show up in a suit and tie. Maybe if like you're in New York or something, but even then, for a programming job, it might be too much. The second kind of place, this is kind of like going the opposite direction. So first was like your local area, right? The second one's just Twitter, digital networking. I've seen a lot of people do this successfully online, where just follow people who interest you, who maybe create content, and just start tweeting at them anytime they post something. Get a conversation going. Eventually, people will notice your face and they'll start getting familiar with you. So that's one good way of networking online.
Yeah, some of my favorite people are on Twitter, and like that's kind of just how we communicate, and I get to build up, like, it's kind of weird to say like a friendship, but it is kind of like a friendship, because it's like somebody that you kind of have interactions on, like on like a very occasional basis, but it's like very easy to pick up where you left off from. And I gotten to know like a lot of different people through Twitter. So I would highly recommend just like putting stuff out there and just commenting. Like a lot of the people that I end up networking with are people that are constantly commenting on my tweets, whenever they're like coding related or something like that, and then stuff just grows naturally from there. So if you don't know how to start networking, I would just say, like, if you really enjoy somebody's content, like something that they're putting out on Twitter, just comment on it. Like, like obviously do something that's appropriate, but like just always comment on it. If you have something to say, then share whatever you're thinking. So yeah.
Right on, right on. Yeah, I think. Do we meet through Twitter? No, we met at a meetup actually the first time, and then at Dub Dub after that. Yeah, but Twitter, excellent way. It's like a digital Times Square. Everyone's there, everyone's networking there. So just open an account if you don't have one. People are very friendly too. You can, reach out, just get a conversation going, and people will usually be friendly. Don't like reach out and say, "Hey, can you help me fix this thing in my project?" Just like approach them more on a surface level. Just talk to them, contribute, say what you loved about an article or something they put out, stuff like that. um, Another one is code camps. So these are local events and they're mostly free. I've never been to a code camp. I've heard of hackathons, which is another thing, but code camps are another way you can find a local thing in your area. Hackathons are more like, you'd go have like an event where you join a team of people, and you're kind of like you're given kind of like a objective or something, like build something cool, and you just put all your heads together and churn something out. It's a good kind of like team building experience, and you'll meet new people, and that's another great way of networking. Have you
Yup,
been to
yup.
a hackathon?
Been to a hackathon? Yes, only through work though. So in my last job, I was working for an electric scooter company called Bird, and they had like all the developers in the company participate in a hackathon, and that was like held at one of their like warehouse locations. It was actually really cool. Was really looking forward to doing another one in person, but
So that
work
was
blew up.
internal to Bird only, right?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't done one. I haven't done one like that's just completely like public facing, physically. I've done public facing digitally, but I haven't done public facing
Oh, okay.
physically. And but it was a good way to actually meet some new people on different teams within the company. So still a good way to network.
Yeah, I always see something, big companies sponsoring them. It seems really cool. I've never gone, but maybe someday I'll just go check one out, especially if it's focused on like Swift and iOS. That would interest me specifically. But yeah, it's just an option that's out there. Another one, this one's kind of cool, but I guess it's more, maybe this is like more seasonal, but they're conferences, especially for iOS and Swift, but for Android, definitely like there's a bunch out there as well. All around the year, I think you could find, different conferences going on. It can be pricey, and you're gonna have to fly out to wherever the conference is, so there are some barriers to getting to that. But if you're willing to do it, it's an excellent way to meet people in the industry who are heavily invested in the industry, because if someone else is going there, they're probably already working in the field, and it's probably good to get to know them.
Yeah, so conferences I would actually say is like the best, most awesome way to actually network if you're willing to like, you know, talk to somebody, like talk to strangers, right? And the reason why I say this is because I actually wanted to go off and be an entrepreneur and all this other stuff. And then I actually went to my very first Dub Dub. It was my first physical conference for programming, and that's when I hung out with Eman, and I met so many awesome people there. Me and Eman got way closer after that. It was like mind blowing. And then on top of that, if you think that you're good at programming, go out to a conference and get humbled by how many people are going to those conferences that have so much more experience than you. And that it's such a game changer. It's so eye opening. Highly recommend conferences if you ever have the
Yeah.
chance to go physically.
And here's kind of a tip from personal experience. Neither Kilo or I had tickets to WWDC. We just went there for AltConf, which is just a free one, literally right next door to DubDub. And, if there's a big conference where there are enough people coming into the city, you might be able to get away with just, getting an Airbnb and just hanging out at all the events going on in that area around that time. There was just this energy and vibe all around. Uh, Events literally on every street corner. You couldn't not network if you tried, if you went to that event. So if there's something like that for Android developers, I think that maybe there's like the Google I/O event. I don't know if they invite a lot of developers out to the city for that, but that would be one thing I would look into if I was an Android developer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, going like how to go about networking once you're actually starting. And one thing I would suggest before we even get to that is don't start networking when you're finally ready to get a job, because then you're gonna kind of be like desperate, and you're gonna kind of be pushy, and like you're gonna it won't work well. You want it to be low pressure and early on while you're learning. In fact, it'll accelerate your learning if you start networking early on. So you show up at the event. What's a tip that you could give people, Kilo, for how they should go about networking?
Yeah, so one thing, because it's really hard to just start talking to strangers. What you could do is, like, first of all, if you're going to an event, just be willing to like share a little bit about yourself with whoever you're sitting right next to. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but you could just do like a little icebreaker, or say something like, "Oh, I'm like really interested in seeing this part of the event, and I'm coming from this place, and I've been in the industry for this year. How about you?" Something like that, just like something to break the ice, and then just kind of keep talking. And then, if you are talking to somebody else that's not talking to anybody else, then maybe y'all could just like hang out together for that event, and then maybe like your little group could start growing, and you can meet more developers that way. People might join your group, or you guys could like go join some other group or something like that. And that's one way to start networking. Another way is to you know you could do a little bit of networking with, usually there's booths. So the sponsors of the event will usually be giving out like free merchandise and stuff like that. You can network with them. It's always great to have like some type of communications with those companies, because those are people that are working there. And if you needed an in, or if you were just curious about a service, that's also one way to actually start networking. And then the third way, which turned out to be a big surprise to me, is to just like participate in any way that you can to help the event. Me and Eman, we actually helped the AltConf people, and we were like given shirts and stuff, and we were like help organizing stuff, and it was actually really cool. But and we had a lot of fun, and we met a couple of really cool people. But yeah, like that's another way, is like just to volunteer your services while you're out there, and that's like a really easy way to meet new people, because you're probably going to be working with a group of people that you're not familiar with. So those are a couple of ways that you could go about meeting some new people while you're out at physical events.
Yeah, excellent tips. I like what you led with, especially the first thing you said, which was just be genuine with people. Like I would say, like I just started off, or I've been studying for a few months, like, and approach it as like a friendship. People are pretty laid back, and you don't need to be somebody or show anything. Ask them for advice, like what resources did you use to learn? How did you become a programmer? And this is a tip I'll give is when you're finally like talking to people, don't focus too much on yourself, like, oh, I work at this and I'm trying to do this. Like when they ask you, like, talk about all that stuff, obviously, but when you're leading it off, like always talk about them, and like be interested in them and what they do. People love talking about themselves. And if you could ask them, like, oh, when did you get started programming? How long have you been doing it? Do you enjoy it? Stuff like that, like, and people will open up. And then if there's a chemistry there, hopefully it grows into like a friendship or something. So that's one tip I would give. And another one is give before you get. So a lot of times, especially in business settings and environments, people go and like they're just like business card in hand, like, hey, I work at this company, we do this, and we sell that, and it's like it's kind of a put off for me at least. I don't go to networking events to like just have someone like focus on themselves. It's kind of like more of a give and take. So definitely try to like you know focus on them, and then they'll focus on you. That's how I would lead.
Yeah, at the end of the day, both of y'all are probably there trying to have a good time. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, create value, contribute something. If you're going to like a local meetup, like me and Kilo did, offer to teach one of the lessons one week. You'll meet so many people that way. People will approach you afterwards and start talking to you and asking you questions. So and you're gonna have to study your butt off and really get something down in order to put yourself out there like that too. So it's a win-win all around. So what about like more like conversation skills? I think that we already kind of touched on this, but the best thing you can do, the best advice I ever got is don't focus inside yourself like, oh, did I say this, how did I come off? Just focus on them, look at them and ask them questions, and just keep having them unravel their story for you. And if you do that, I think most people would be fine.
Yeah. Another thing is like, don't just be waiting to speak. Actually, be listening. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll just be waiting for somebody to finish talking, and then they'll just start talking. So that's another thing. And just like, if somebody's talking to you, keep eye contact. Make sure they know that you're listening. You're not just like kind of interrupting them, or not paying attention to them, looking away, or talking to somebody else while they're in the middle of their of their conversation or with you or whatever. So yeah.
Here's another tip that just came to me. Like if you want to practice this like small talk before you go to like local meetups or a networking event, like let's say you're at a grocery store once, well, people already go, but let's say you're at a grocery store and you're at the checkout line. Just talk to random people, be like, oh, hey, how long you been working today? Oh, da, da, da. Like just kick something off, get comfortable with meeting strangers and just talking to them that way. Eventually you kind of get numb to the whole idea of approaching a stranger, and it comes naturally at that point.
Yeah,
So
and they're probably strangers. You'll probably never see them again. So if you mess up, big deal.
yeah, if you mess up, you'll go to the next style going forward when you shop there. No, so the other tip we had for people was getting started early. We kind of touched on this already, but a lot of people make that mistake where they graduate or they finish their studies and now they want a job, and then that's when they start going to networking events. Please don't do that. You could if you wanted to, but it's much better if you've already been meeting with these people for months and months and months before that point. Because when you're ready to get a job, at that point you just reach out and go like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job," and you don't have to like start investing in that friendship at that point. You've already planted those seeds, watered it, and you could reap those fruits at that point.
Yeah, for the most part, it's just like you don't want to reach out to somebody only when you need something, right? And that's why it's like important to
Exactly.
just build genuine relationships. Just naturally be curious about somebody. Like even if you do like start off by having like an agenda, like let's say that you wanted to go work at Amazon or something like that, right? And you plan on working there, like you're just getting started and you plan on working there in a year or something like that. And you know the person that's on the team that you want to actually communicate with, then what you could do is you could start reaching out now and start talking to that person, and then just be genuinely interested in like what's going on at Amazon. It's okay to say like, hey, I'm looking to get into Amazon or something like that, or whatever the company is. I'm looking into getting into that company. What are some things that you would recommend to like get to like build up to work there? And I think asking a question like that, where it's like, "Hey, I'm interested in doing something like this, and I have like a goal, and I want to build my skill set, and I see that you're there." It's I think that's a different question than, "Hey, I'm currently looking for a job. Can you just refer me in?" Because then it's like, "Hey, I'm looking to build up my skills, and you might have some information that could help me. I was wondering if you could just share that with me," as opposed to saying, "Hey, you're in a position where you can help me. Just help me." Right. So I think that there's a very fine line between that difference, but I think that it makes a huge difference in the way that people perceive like your messages.
You definitely don't want to be that person who just shows up when they need something. I remember, and this kind of ties into what you're saying. Maintain the network you have too. Like keep in touch with all those people. Like don't just talk to them when you need something. So over time, like even after I got my first job, right, I would still go to local meetups while we still had them, because I would miss my friends. Like I wanted to like I wasn't even there for the lessons. I would tell them like I'm here for what happens after the event. We'd go out to eat, have some beers, whatever. Like I wanted to be there and just hang out and catch up with them and see what was going on with them. So, you know, a network. I, I don't like the idea of a network that's kind of formal and distant and surface level. And I know that works for a lot of people in a lot of industries, but what I loved about iOS development community was that we're all just friends. We're all like friendly with each other and we're all in it together. So there's a certain warmth and a more depth to that. So I don't approach it like, oh, this is my network. I'm going to send a card once a year to them just to stay in their mind. It's more like, hey, are you going to Dub Dub this year? Let's watch something together, or let's go grab some food or whatever, stuff like that. I enjoy that a lot more, and if that sounds interesting to people, hopefully they approach it that way as well.
Man, I love
So
the iOS
we're at the
community so much. It's so awesome.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
love the
yeah.
iOS community.
Coming from a business background, this is so much better. And I think it's the same for just programming in general. I think the vibe and the casualness really puts people at ease. I really
Well,
like it.
programming is definitely cool. The programming community in general is pretty cool, but the iOS community specifically, I've touched a couple of different communities. I popped my head in. The iOS community is pretty solid. I'm not gonna lie. It does feel
Nice.
like everybody's just a friend.
I wonder if that has to do with just Apple in general, because anything with Apple, even if you're not a programmer, you just like Apple products. There's this like cult fandom and this fervor and passion for anything regarding Apple. So now you have programmers who develop for Apple. We have that same like bond of like, oh, are you getting the new iPhone even though you got one last year? We all like geek out on the same stuff.
Yup.
Yeah.
Blue
So
blue blue
yeah,
bubble itis. That's what it is.
blue bubble itis. What is
Yeah, blue
that?
bubble for the messages for iMessage. If you
Oh, oh,
have the blue
oh, I
bubbles,
see, I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those green bubble people over there. Yeah. I love that Apple said that at one of their conferences one year. What do we do about the green bubble people? Now you could talk to them too. No, we're gonna get so much crap for that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
no, we love honestly though, like I love programming in general. We're just having a little bit of fun here. So let's share a little bit of our stories, because I thought it would be interesting to kind of share our background with networking and the wonders it kind of did for us. Kyle, you take it away first, man. Just share with us like how networking helped you out.
Yeah, so networking has been essentially all of my career. Like all my career, I can attribute to just like the fact that networking has pushed me through, because I actually have not applied on a website and actually gotten hired somewhere. Like it never worked out like that. And I've been a programmer for, I don't know, since 2015. So what, like 6 years or something like that. And I've only had like a couple of jobs, but a lot of the freelancing especially was definitely through just networking. So I touched on this a little bit earlier, where my first paid job was through networking, and that was through a meetup.com billboard. And I reached out to that person and we got in contact, and then I ended up having my first job. Even before that, when I was a mobile consultant, I was like finally out there inside of the job market. And my dad actually had a friend that was building a mobile app, and my dad kind of referred me. So even though it's my family, my dad, like my immediate family, even though he kind of referred me there, it's still kind of like networking, right? So that's another thing. In my last two jobs, I got both of those jobs. The one where I was working at Bird, that was through Twitter. I had taken a picture of one of their scooters, and I was like, oh, this is the best part of my commute. Somebody from the team, my friend Caleb, he actually reached out to me and he was like, hey, would you be interested in working here? And I was like, oh, heck yeah, that'd be awesome. So then that's how I started going through the interview process there. And then for AWS, the way that I got in was after I got laid off from Bird, I posted a video, right? And this is a little bit like on the outskirts of networking, because I have like a social following. So that definitely helps in a lot of different ways. But the fact that I was putting out there that I got laid off, and I was sharing my story with everybody on YouTube. So my previous manager, Nader, had reached out to me on Twitter and said, hey, would you be interested in becoming a developer advocate? And that's how I got my current job. So networking has just propelled my career forward. Now, a lot of that does have to do with my YouTube channel. I do have like a larger following than most average developers, right? But if I did no networking at all, then I definitely wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned it. You said you took a picture of a bird. You actually tweeted that picture out, and someone on Twitter reached out to you, right?
Yeah.
So that goes to show you just following people on Twitter and having that network there is extremely helpful as well. Yeah,
Yep.
another one you mentioned that completely escaped us was just family too. If you have relatives that might already be in the programming industry or know people who are, they could possibly hook you up. So
So
from
one
my
thing
story,
on
yeah,
that, I just before you get into your story, another
yeah.
tip is just like talk to people, even if you're not a developer yet, talk to people as if you're a developer and say that you are a developer or you're learning how to build apps. And then, the only time that I think that you should work for free is at the very, very beginning if you have zero experience and you are just looking to learn something. So if you're interested in working for free or something like that, having a friend, because like as soon as you become a developer, everybody wants to build an app. Everybody's reaching out to you. Hey, I got an app idea. Everybody has an app idea. So you could just go take one of your family friends, and you could build them an app, and that could be like one way to get your portfolio kickstarted. So just like
Dude,
be open with the fact that you are a developer.
that's extremely true. I couldn't get away from people who would have an app idea and no money. It's always those two things combined. They're like, I'm at a wedding and they're like, oh, man, I heard you're programming now. I have this idea. I'm like, dude, really?
Yeah,
like I'm
don't
here to
worry.
have
We'll
fun.
pay you in equity. We'll split it 50-50, even though I have the idea and you're doing all the work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's 99% chance it'll fail, but man, put your time into it. I promise you
It's
it'll
the
go
next
somewhere. Yeah.
Facebook. Don't worry.
My gosh, dude. My gosh. It's almost like being a celebrity, dude. Like people just approach you all the time. Um, yeah, so for me, my personal story with networking, I there's a statistic like 80% of jobs aren't gotten through applications, and that's so true. Like that was my experience exactly. I studied and studied and studied and went to meetups, and I had like a resume prepared and a portfolio, and I didn't use either one of those things for my first job. Just straight up, I could have just not had either of those and I would have got the job. What happened was I had met someone once, Steven, shout out to Steven, not the Fireside Swift one, but a local LA Steven. He he just came one time and we went to dinner after the meetup, and after that, I hadn't seen him since. So just meeting him that one time, a few months later, I was finally ready to start applying to jobs. And I thought before I even submit a resume to a company, let me just reach out to him and see if he has, any room at his company, if they're looking. And he responded, yeah. And he sent me like a take home project, and the rest was history. So again, like a lot of people feel like they need to apply to like 100 different places. You could probably get a job without even submitting a resume with networking. It doesn't always happen, but it happens more often than you'd think.
Yeah, it's all about
My
who you
sec
know, really.
Yeah, really, like that's how the world works, to be honest. And whether that's fair or not is a different discussion. That's the reality. And people need to take advantage of that and start meeting people. So that was my first job. Eventually, unfortunately, at the company I was at, I got laid off too. They were going into more of a React Native type of direction. So obviously, being a native iOS developer, I got the boot. And after that, I took to Twitter, just shared, I got laid off. Anyone help me? And just retweet this. And a bunch of people did. And, I was fortunate. And I kind of had a little bit of an advantage, like you did too, Kyle, because I had a podcast back then. And I would interview like more prominent members of the community. So they were following me and they were sharing that tweet as well. And that really, really helped out. And that's how I got the job I'm at today. One last thing. Before either of those two jobs, I also got a contracting opportunity solely because I went to meetups. So there was that too. So that's pretty much it. In fact, saying it out loud, I just realized that all three of my jobs were from networking. Oh, and my fourth, another contracting opportunity, which was very, very high paying and really, really good. I got it from meeting someone once at a networking event. So why do I share that? Literally all it takes, like you could meet someone once and it could happen for you. So put yourself out there because this stuff happens constantly, like to a lot of people I know. So that's kind of my experience. And Kyle, we kind of touched on this already, but our whole thing, like this project, everything kind of happened because we met at a meetup once at an Apple store, I think. We barely talked that time, actually. I wouldn't even say we met that time, really. The time we met was when you landed in the San Jose airport, and I tweeted out you. You tweeted out like, "I'm out here. Does anyone want to meet up, hang out, whatever?" And I responded, and ever since then we've been buddies. So, you know, all this stuff we're saying, it really works, and you kind of gain really good friendships out of that. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely. That's another way that you could use Twitter is that you could just say, "Hey, I'm out in this area or I'm doing this thing," and if it's relevant to developers, "Hey, I'm out doing this thing for development. Anybody in the area? Anybody want to go get coffee? Anybody want to go get boba? Anybody want to go do something?" Right? So like that's like in like a easy way to like just start meeting people in the area and people that might have similar interests.
Right on, exactly. So we want to end the episode as we usually do, just tapping into the community, getting some of their opinions and thoughts. This time we thought we would kind of see what their experiences with networking would be, so you could kind of see more examples of what we're telling you. So I'll take it off with the first one. This is from Swifty McSwiftface.
What's up, Ben?
uh, is his name Ben? I
Yeah,
love that name,
yeah.
Swifty McSwiftface. That's awesome. So so hi Ben. Thanks for chiming in. And he said, talking to the Fireside Swift podcast on Twitter led me to be a guest on their show. Then Zach, the co-host, tagged me in a job offer tweet from their friend Janina. I worked for 2 years at Adidas as a result and now co host the Fireside Swift podcast. That's awesome. So, this kind of goes back to just reaching out to content creators and just, putting yourself out there. He befriended people who had like a hit podcast in the community. And through that, he got a job at Adidas. This isn't like, some no name company, it's freaking Adidas. So, that's awesome, especially since it sounds like that was his first programming job, and that blows my mind that he would go from nothing to Adidas just like that.
That
So
subtle
awesome. Thank you
flex,
for
though.
sharing that. Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
All right, next one is from Mo. Mo is actually on the AWS Amplify team. He's on my team, and we work together. Really awesome guy. So Mo said, networking will help you develop and improve your skill set, and it will open up new opportunities for you. My current job is a result of networking. So, like I said, Mo is over here at AWS, one of the larger companies. It's one of the FANG companies, right? So it's really awesome that people are able to get into even the FANG companies through networking.
Awesome. Yeah, man. You could get some big companies through just networking. So, it, even without doing the whole algorithm interview, I just realized that's a backdoor to getting all that stuff down in your brain.
Well,
So here's
well,
the last one. Yeah.
also a disclaimer on that. Like, you still have to go through the interview process, but just keep in mind that networking isn't going to necessarily be like, oh, hey, he's my friend, you're going to get hired. You still have to go through that interview process. The difference is that you may have somebody in your corner that's fighting for you if it's between two candidates, right? And this is going back to my bird job. I actually didn't do that great on on a couple of the interviews actually, but since there were some people on the inside that knew about my channel, and like since I had some networking with one of my friends, they were in my corner like pushing for me to get in over the other candidate.
Yeah, so if there's an HR department, especially if it's not a startup, like more corporate environment, it's going to be harder to get in because of the HR processes in place. But it's like you said, you won't. you'll need to know things, but then again, it's gonna be a lot easier, especially if you have like nerves or people know you're good, but maybe you just got nervous. Having someone in your corner makes all the difference. Let's go ahead and share the last tweet. So this is Mark. This is more like an advice rather than his experience. So he says, I think for me, it's about maintaining those friendships. A lot of friends did dev work and saw me go from a what is it stage to one case to in one case working with them as an equal. So basically, he went from not knowing programming to working alongside the people he was networking with. So that's always encouraging to see, and that goes back to what I was saying. You don't have to show that you're somebody when you're first starting out. Just be honest, like you're learning, and when they'll see that progress in you, and they'll know when you're ready, and they'll if there's a job there waiting for you, they'll let you know. So that's awesome, and we appreciate that feedback. Thank you, Mark. And that about sums it up for this episode. Kyle, do you have any like last things you want to add in before we wrap this up?
No, no, I think I shared everything that I wanted to. Networking is such a big deal. Make sure that you're talking to people in the community. It can really help you go far. And then you can also meet really cool people, build lifelong friendships with some people. And, if you ever go out somewhere like to a conference or something like that, and you don't feel like going alone, you can always say like, hey, you want to come back to the conference with me? I'm going to X or whatever. And, y'all could go together again. So highly recommend networking. Try to, get out of your comfort zone a little bit and just meet some new people that are interested in the same things that you're interested in. And I think it can really have a huge like helping hand for your career.
Yeah, ditto. So that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you everyone for tuning in. You could find me on Twitter at Eman Harut. Kyle?
And you can find me at Kilo_Loco on Twitter. That's at KILO_LOCO.
Right on. And you could do that little sexy sign off you have
going hell on. Yeah. So, and the most important thing of this entire episode is that you make sure you go out there and you keep coding passionately.
There you go.